Assalamualaikum guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today our topic in Indo-Pak history is Aligarh movement that was started by Sir Syed Ahmed Khan. Let us have its brief introduction. Sir Syed Ahmed Khan was the first Muslim scholar who invigorated Western education among Muslims. He inspired Muslims to adopt modern Western education and stop them from political activities. This movement involved some educational, social, religious, and political services of Sir Syed Ahmed Khan. First of all, we will have a look on educational services of Sir Syed. To facilitate education and learning of Muslims, he created schools at different places. The first school he created was the Muradabad school that was founded in 1859. Then he founded Ghazipur school in 1862. Then he formed Scientific Society in 1863, and the aim of Scientific Society was to translate Western magazines, books that was written in English to simple language that was Urdu of that time, so that the Muslims will be able to understand the Western education. Then he formed Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental School in 1885 and Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College in 1887. That school was transformed into college after 2 years, and then in 1920 it became university after the death of Sir Syed Ahmed Khan. Last educational service was Mohammedan Educational Conference. He founded that educational conference to enhance Western education of the Muslims because Muslims at that time were not willing to learn English language. They considered Britishers their enemy and their language as a tool that was used by Britishers to rule over them. So they were not willing to learn that. But Sir Syed Ahmad Khan stopped them from political activities, and then he encouraged them to adopt Western education. Okay, so next, number two, social and religious services. To bring social and religious relief for Muslims, he wrote about various topics to spread religious and social teachings. After 1857 War of Independence, the whole blame was laid on Muslims that they are the perpetrators of 1857 war. So they were denied of the government jobs. They were not allowed to go to the schools and colleges at that time. So to bring relief for the Muslims, he started social and religious services. The first social and religious services of Muslim after Sayyid Ahmad Khan involved Khutbat-e-Ahmadiyya. He wrote the Khutbat-e-Ahmadiyya in 1869, and there was a Christian author who wrote against Islam. And in Khutbat-e-Ahmadiyya, he replied to that Christian author, and he explained about the real Islamic teachings that were not uh, told by that Christian author. Okay, so next is the beginning kalam, and that was a tafsir of Bible in philosophy. He tried to relate Islamic teachings with the philosophy. And next is Ahkame Tame Ahle Kitab. That was about Christians and Muslims can dine together. The Christians and Muslims, they had some issues of staying with each other. Of the view they were of the view that we cannot eat together. So Sir Sayyid wrote about it from taking the material from Quran and Bible that we can dine with Christians. The next, he founded Anjuman Urdu, and the main aim of Anjuman Urdu was to spread the Urdu language. That was aimed to suppress the Urdu-Hindi controversy of 1867. Okay, he violently stood against Urdu-Hindi controversy that started in 1867, and there were various other movements in which they were the purpose that our language should be made official language, especially Hindi language. The Hindus were of the view that our language should be the main official language of subcontinent. So Sir Syed tried to preserve Urdu language for the Muslims. Next, he wrote the Hizbul Ahlak. That was the magazine written on English education that you should adopt the modern means of education. He encouraged Muslims to learn more about English language and English education so that they can fight against Britishers and Indians by getting some knowledge. And that was all their social and religious services. Okay, so moving on to the next point, that are the political services of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. As we all know that the Muslims were not allowed to take part in the government jobs, and they were not allowed to go to the colleges or universities from 1857 to the 1900s. So he stopped Muslims to take part in politics because Muslims were weak, and he knew that they cannot fight with Britishers and Hindus at that time, and encouraged Muslims to gain Western education to improve themselves. His political services were aimed at improving the image of Muslims, which was destroyed after the 1857 war. So his political services involved Muslim-British compromise. He urged Muslims that you need Britishers to preserve your rights, and you have to work with them to improve your lifestyles, your role in education, your role in government jobs. So he asked Muslims to cooperate with Britishers. Next, he tried to underline and show the causes of Indian revolt. He tried to show the causes of Indian revolt because the whole blame was laid on the Muslims. So he showed that the socio-political and economic conditions at that time were responsible for the revolt, and the Muslims are not only responsible for that revolt of 1857. Next, he wrote Asbabi Bagawat-e-Hind. That was a magazine that was written to highlight and to show the real reasons behind the war, because Hindus laid all the responsibility on the Muslims that they started the war against Britishers. But later on, Hindus started cooperating with the Britishers, and the Muslims were left behind to bear all the effects. So he told Swabe Bhagavate Hind the real reasons behind the 1857 war. Next, he wrote Loyal Mohammedans of India. He tried to ensure that you should have to be loyal to the British government to help them to achieve your rights and to get better lifestyle at that time. So he tried to encourage Muslims in all the possible ways that you should be with the Britishers. You should not hate them, and you should not try to go against them, because they were in the power and Hindus were also with them. So that could have destroyed their all the image in front of the Britishers. Next is interpretation of word Nisara. Nisara was the word that was used for Christians, and the Britishers thought that it was the word used against them. So he explained the word, that why it is used, and he tried to explain that the Muslims, Christians, and Britishers can coexist. And the main aim of this writing was to highlight the spirit of coexistence. Okay, the next last point in political services involves that he propounded two nation theory, that he tried to um, let Muslims to cooperate with the Britishers and Hindus, but moreover he understood that in the longer run that Muslims and Hindus cannot live together, because Muslims were in the deteriorated condition at that time, and Sir Sayyid were the keen observer of all that situation. So through Western education, they will be able to move away from the Britishers and Hindus atrocities. Okay, next is there were two major madrasas at that time that were also utilized to improve the education of the Muslims. The first is Darul Uloom Deoband. That madrasa was for the Islamic education, and the next is Nadwatul Ulama, that was situated in Kanpur, and that was aimed to have both the Arabic and ethical and Western education. That was aimed to have both Islamic and Western education. And Darul Imam Deoband was aimed to spread Islamic education and the true Islamic teachings. Okay, so let us move to the conclusion. This movement led Muslims to fight for their cause not violently but through educational means, and in 1892, through this platform, Muslims also demanded separate electorate. And after this, through this movement, the Muslims fought for their cause not violently but through educational means, and in 1892, they also demanded separate electorate for themselves. So that was all for today. Thanks for watching. If you liked my video, kindly subscribe. Thank you.